Good morning, BookTube. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. I have really only been able to make one video a week these days. I don't know if that will change for me, but I know a lot of people are able to make more, maybe have more time not working, but I've always been at home working, so nothing's really changed for me in that regard. And some other things have kind of just gotten more intense, I guess. And I am kind of engaging in more creativity than normal because that seems to be really supporting my need to be kind of calm in the face of all of these changes and stressors that we haven't normally had. So there's all of that happening, but I'm feeling good about the way I'm spending my time, and hopefully one video a week is enough for you. And I may do a video about other booktubers in the event that it's not. So today's topic is to read or not to read. This month's version is a selection of 5 books that I have culled from my library. We are in the middle of the bookcase project, and it has stalled a little bit, so because of the current situation. So I'll update you on that as soon as I have an update. But I have every book I own is not in the library anymore. It's in my spare bedroom on a bed, and I probably will be able to call even more out once I have the time to do that. But I picked out 5 that sprang up at me, and I thought, am I going to keep these or am I not going to keep these? Am I going to read these or am I never going to read these? So let's get started. So the first one is The Journals of Sylvia Plath, which was compiled by Ted Hughes. Ted was the consulting editor of this work, and there's actually a handwritten piece in the front of this book. Ted Hughes was Sylvia Plath's husband. I think they divorced before she died, but nevertheless, he's edited these, and I got this several years ago. So that's one book I need to decide about. Another is a biography of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis by Donald Spoto. I got this at a book fair from the library. I have removed the library plastic, but it's pretty clear that it's not the best edition of this. So he has compiled this biography from new material gleaned from her writings, her documents from schools she attended, from the archives of the JFK Library, and from interviews with people that she was close to. I do love Jackie Kennedy. Ironically, my dad did not like Jackie Kennedy. Like, he had a real aversion to her, but I have always liked her and the Kennedys in general. So that's a possibility to keep, or Purge. Leah Remini, Troublemaker. It's her memoir about her journey into Hollywood and into Scientology. I have read this one, so that one is completed. The question is whether I want to ever reread it again. It is fascinating to me, and the fact that she broke away from the church is also fascinating to me. It was a great read. The question is, do I want to keep it? These are 3 complete novels by James M. Cain. I have read The Postman Always Rings twice. I read it for a readathon last year. I got this at a library book sale as well. I have removed the jacket cover. It's in better shape, but it also has the markings from the library when they discarded it. I have seen the miniseries Mildred Pierce and never read the book, and I have watched 2 movies around Double Indemnity, but I have never read the book. And The Postman Always Rings Twice was okay for me. It wasn't fantastic. And I've seen that movie adaptation as well. And then the last book is Rattle, which is a journal of poetry, which was published in the winter of 2008. Poetry journals are just filled with poetry. I mean, that is absolutely what they are. No surprise there. These are usually lesser known poets than, some of the ones that are more widely recognized. certainly there are some interviews and conversations with them too, and it's really a great literary journal of poetry. There's a lot of cowboys, and I don't remember how I acquired this, but I suspect it may have been my sister's, or I may have just acquired it after she died. I'm not sure. It does have some artwork. I actually marked a poem. Oh yes, by Megan Adler, called After Six, which is a poem about her mother's sobriety. And I love this poem. Yeah, I did love that poem a lot. There were a couple in here I really loved. There are some award winners, some that won the poetry prize. Yeah, there's a couple in here that I really like. Okay, so I've already started looking at this. There are a few that are really, really wonderful. I do love poetry, and sometimes I'm really in the mood to read a poem. So there's that. James Cain, like I said, I did not love The Postman Always Rings Twice, but I do love Mildred Pierce as a story. It's a story about a woman who's, I think her husband divorces her and she becomes an entrepreneur, and it's pretty empowering for women despite the time period in which it was written and set. This particular, The Postman Always Rings Twice was published in 1934, Double Indemnity 1936, and Mildred Pierce 1941. And those copyrights, of course, were renewed over time. But so at the time that Mildred Pierce was written and published, it was quite new. It was quite challenging for some people probably to accept that this woman was so bold and had done that. I'm going to easily say we're going to keep this. I might reread this. I really do like the story of how this happened in her family and what the effects were and how she got to Hollywood. And she's sassy and funny and weird, and I like her, so I'm going to keep. That's a for sure keep. The Journals of Sylvia Plath, I have just glanced through them really quickly, and I journal every single day too, but it's not necessarily anything that anyone would ever want to read again. It does look like a lot of this is similar. I mean, I do sort of go through my day and what I did, and there are some letters in here. It is divided into the time where she was at Wellesley and when she was at Smith College and different things. So it is pretty indicative, I guess, of her life. Boston, England in the 60s. I'm probably not going to read this, though. Honestly, I'm probably not going to read this. I've had it for years. I've not read it since. It's probably not real uplifting. I'm probably not going to read it. And Jacqueline Kennedy, what's interesting is this morning I had this moment where I thought it's time to watch Grey Gardens again. If you've never watched Grey Gardens, it's both a documentary about her aunt and cousin, and it was also adapted into a movie starring Jessica Lange and Drew Barrymore, which is really very close to the documentary. But if you do watch it, watch the documentary first. But it's the story of her aunt and cousin who were reclusive women, and they lived in terrible conditions on this estate called Grey Gardens that at one time had been beautifully kept and lovely. And her aunt also, her husband, I don't think he ever divorced her, but he left her. And so they had some trauma and they probably had some mental illness, and it's really fascinating. Nevertheless, I've really always been fascinated with Jackie Kennedy, and I do love memoirs, and I find them quick reads most of the time if they're written well. But I also am kind of fascinated by the Kennedys, so that's a definite keep for me. So I'm keeping Leah Remini and Jackie Kennedy's memoirs. I am going to keep this. It's not a bad looking version unless you open up the front cover. And I would like to read Mildred Pierce and Double Indemnity at some point in my life. I don't know that it'll be anytime soon. This is also a really great cover for this. I really like that. So I am going to keep that. So that's 3 of the 5 I'm going to keep. And now we come to the poetry journal. All right, here's what I'm going to do with this. I am going to keep it temporarily. I'm going to commit to taking a look at it within the next few weeks and reading some of the poems. And as I'm reading them again, or in some cases, probably for the first time, my intention will be to read it with an eye toward whether or not this is something I want to keep on my shelves forever or for a longer period of time. This is actually published by the Frida C. Fox Family Foundation, which I also appreciate when people, make steps to publish poetry for others who are aspiring or currently successful poets. So I do want to support that for the moment and hang on to it. So of the 5, I'm keeping 4. Is that a result of the fact that I'm getting these new bookcases and that there's more room? I don't know, but I am keeping 4. So we are in the final phase of that project, and the guy who's been working on it for us is sick. And I don't know that of course, there's no immediate leap to the fact that he has the virus, but he's sick. And so as a precautionary measure, he's going to get well and quarantine. And I don't know what the status is of that, but so we're almost done. We're close to being done with the construction part of it, and then we will have to sand and paint everything, and then we will start putting the books in and getting everything organized, and I will do a final. So I have been filming all along, so it'll be a vlog. Then we'll have a final reveal of the room and the space, and then my intention is to begin filming in there. We shall see. The lighting isn't great, regardless of whether we have that setup or the other setup. The lighting is not great in there, so I'm going to have to make some decisions about lighting. But I do think that at some point I will be shifting to filming in there, which was always my intention when I began this channel. It was just a lighting issue and a setting issue, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so thanks for joining me today. Thanks for sticking with me as subscribers, even though the content is slightly lowered. I've also really just had some challenges with focus on this particular project for the moment and focus on reading. I don't know if you've had that challenge too. So making some shifts this week in my way of approaching some of these things and of kind of making space for filming, because I do enjoy doing it. I enjoy being with all of you in conversation and comments and, other ways that we intersect. So I'm not giving up on it. I'm not taking a hiatus as I've seen some YouTubers are doing. I'm just kind of cutting back a little bit, and we'll see what happens. I'll just let it be what it is. So thanks for being patient with me. If you haven't subscribed already, I hope you will, even though the content might be slightly less than it was before. I would love to have you as a new subscriber. I've gotten a few new subscribers, so that's lovely. Probably some people that are sitting at home and don't have anything to do are watching more YouTube, which is also a lovely way to spend some time. I appreciate all of you. I hope you are all very, very well and healthy, and that you're having a happy, happy reading day. Bye.